A man participates in the talent awakening ceremony, but shocks all the examiners. Two top-tier academies fight tooth and nail for him. The reason is simple. He summoned the legendary Holy Angel into existence. The three long-lost hidden classes, ready for him to choose from. The so-called strongest on earth light mage. The light priest, who can defy fate and resurrect even from bones. And the all-around holy knight. The truth behind all of this is, 2.5 years ago, a virtual reality game called Eternal exploded onto the scene, becoming an overnight global sensation. Countless people fell into it, unable to escape. But just as the world was enjoying the game, its secret dungeon merged with reality. Alien monsters poured out, and in an instant, the world was thrown into chaos. Just as everyone was losing hope, they discovered they could level up and change classes, gaining the strength to fight the demon gods. And Zhou Yi, he's the person who crossed over into this world 2.5 years ago. But before he could get used to his new environment, he was met with a hellish difficulty at the start. His mother passed away, and his sister suddenly fell ill. Even with the best doctors, there was no cure. Only a low-level priest could barely keep her alive. But the cost of a low-level priest's services was insanely high. Zhou Yi nearly went bankrupt, even borrowing money from all his relatives, just to cover the sky-high medical bills. However, with the costs continuing to rise, Zhou Yi realized his part-time job income couldn't keep up anymore. Today's class change ceremony would decide whether he could change his fate, only by changing to a combat profession and diving into dungeons to earn money. Could he bring his sister to a stronger priest and give her a chance to be cured? At this moment, the class change mage stepped onto the stage, reminding everyone to stay relaxed during the awakening process. With a flick of his wand, a massive magic circle shone in the air. The shockwave from the surge of magic instantly knocked everyone off balance, making it impossible for them to stand steady. But what everyone envied most wasn't his powerful abilities, it was his income. Just for hosting a single class change ceremony, his fee was at least in the 6-figure range. Once everything was ready, the homeroom teacher began organizing the students, calling them up to the stage for their tests. However, the students below the stage weren't as relaxed as expected. Their nerves were almost at their breaking point. While there were thousands of known professions, each person could only choose from the 3 professions most suited to them. And in a world overrun with monsters, only combat professions earned respect. In contrast, non-combat professions were looked down upon. Yet, 80% of people worldwide could never be chosen for a combat profession. As the class change ceremony neared its end, it was finally Zhou Yi's turn to step up for his test. When he stepped onto the class change platform, countless little fangirls cheered for him from below. At that moment, the homeroom teacher of Class 6, Tang Tianjun, walked smugly to Lu Xiangyang's side and boasted, "Did you know? Our class awakened 21 combat professions, and even got a rare profession. Not only did we meet this year's exam requirements, but we might even exceed them and get a promotion with a pay raise." This made Li Xiangyang tremble with rage, wanting nothing more than to punch this smug guy right there and then. At that moment, the two of them suddenly turned around. An eerie wave of magical energy surged from the class change platform. A strange gust of wind swirled around Zhou Yi. As the wind grew stronger, a necklace in front of Zhou Yi suddenly burst into dazzling light. Immediately after, a golden whirlwind erupted from the necklace. At the same time, a cold mechanical voice rang in Zhou Yi's mind. "System energy detected. System activating. The strongest support system has been loaded. Would you like to claim your newbie gift to activate S-tier talent, Guardian of the Holy Angel?" Zhou Yi blinked in disbelief, rubbing his eyes. It wasn't until the cold sensation at his fingertips hit him that he realized he had really activated the system. However, the necklace was something Zhou Yi had bought in his past life, and for some reason, it had traveled with him when he crossed over. At first, he thought it might be a treasure, but after fiddling with it for a long time with no response, he had given up on it. Now, not only had the necklace activated the system, but it also gave him a huge gift. It was like a timely rain. You see, in this world, not only are the types of professions crucial, but the level of one's talent is just as important. The higher the talent level, the stronger the enhancement effects. More importantly, in most class change ceremonies, The three selectable professions often have a strong connection to one's talent. Unlike the dazzling system panel before Zhou Yi's eyes, below the class change platform, the teachers and classmates could only see him standing there in a daze, which sparked a lot of whispers among the crowd. Just then, a tremendous wave of divine magic soared into the sky, causing the clouds above to crackle with energy. The next second, golden raindrops began to fall from the sky. Even the most seasoned professors were at a loss for words, unable to explain what was happening. Was it a class change vision? No. This was the long-rumored talent awakening. A moment later, a thicker golden pillar of light shot down to the earth. And faintly, the silhouette of an angel could be seen slowly descending. A holy six-winged angel appeared before Zhou Yi, its majestic aura impossible to hide, even with the golden mask covering its face. Then, the angel's ethereal voice rang out in the air. Light is your faith. It is the source of your strength. Light will always be with you, and will forever protect you, burning away all evil. And I shall forever guard your side. With that, the angel turned into a streak of golden light and surged into Zhou Yi's body. The divine flames ignited on his forehead, and soon formed a golden cross. But the next second, a torrent of divine magic shot out of Zhou Yi's body, gathering in the sky above. Then, three golden figures appeared before everyone. A stir broke out among the crowd. Zhou Yi not only awakened a new talent during the class change ceremony, but also awakened a profession never seen before. The homeroom teacher's eyes widened in shock, because what appeared before him was a hidden class that only existed in legends. Looking at the professions in front of him, Zhou Yi fell into deep thought, because this choice would completely change his fate. He had to make the best decision. So, Zhou Yi began to analyze them one by one. The light mage was a pure damage-dealing class, with immense burst damage but no survivability. In a world overrun by monster hordes, it would be easy to perish. The priest had strong survivability, and even possessed a god-defying resurrection ability, but its damage output was too weak, requiring heavy reliance on others, making it unsuitable for Zhou Yi at the moment. The paladin, however, was the best all-around class, able to tank, deal damage, and heal. While it didn't have any particularly outstanding advantages, it was the most balanced. And more importantly, Zhou Yi had S-tier holy light affinity, so the paladin was undoubtedly the best choice. Without hesitation, Zhou Yi chose the paladin. The instant he touched the selection panel, the paladin seemed to come to life, rising from the ground while wielding a giant hammer. Immediately after, a steadfast voice echoed in Zhou Yi's mind. Walk the path of glory, seeking justice and righteousness for life. This is the paladin. With that, the paladin's body turned into golden light, dispersing and merging into Zhou Yi's body. Then, a system notification rang out. Congratulations, you have changed class to paladin. Unlike the paladin, Zhou Yi now had divine six-winged golden wings on his back. Not only that, Zhou Yi's level instantly shot up to level 10, and he gained 3 god-tier skills, as well as 10 attribute points to distribute freely. After stepping off the stage, the moment Zhou Yi turned around, he was surrounded by classmates, everyone eager to team up with him to clear dungeons together. At this moment, the homeroom teacher suddenly walked over, shouting to disperse the excited students. Stop crowding around. Go, break it up. However, the next second, the teacher's eyes gleamed with golden light as he stared at Zhou Yi, because in front of him stood someone with a truly legendary hidden class. He was more excited than anyone else. Zhou Yi, you did well today. Go home and rest. Come to the principal's office tomorrow. Once back home, Zhou Yi began studying the awakening rewards provided by the system. Among them, the most generous reward was the unassigned bonus attribute points. Considering that his primary task in the future was to earn money, Zhou Yi decided to prioritize adding points to strength, followed by constitution, because only with enough damage output could he efficiently defeat the monsters. After allocating his points, Zhou Yi felt the magic within his body boil. The changes brought by the attribute points were explosive. At that moment, the system notification rang. First time allocation of attribute points detected. Activating Paladin Quest. Looking at the panel in front of him, Zhou Yi smiled knowingly. So, completing the quest would grant rewards. The rewards were so rich that Zhou Yi immediately clicked confirm without hesitation. But just as his finger pressed the confirm button, a golden light descended from the sky, enveloping him. Then, the cold mechanical voice of the system echoed, matching a random trial field that fits the level. Trial objective: kill an E-tier monster, Galabi. Please take this trial seriously. Death in the trial will result in death in real life as well. Before Zhou Yi could react, his consciousness plunged into darkness. When he opened his eyes again, he found himself in a dim dark mine. He scanned his surroundings, and suddenly, he sensed an ambush from behind. He turned just in time to see the monster Gulabi's arm transform into a spear, charging at him with lightning speed. Zhou Yi tapped his toes, quickly dodging to the side, a playful smile tugging at his lips. This was his first time facing a monster directly, and he decided not to use any skills just yet, to see if he could defeat it with his own strength. He stomped on the monster's arm, and in the next instant, he leapt to a spot 2.5 meters away. Thanks to his enhanced stats, Zhou Yi's body became much more agile, and his jumping ability increased tenfold. However, the monster, enraged by Zhou Yi's previous underestimation, swinging its claws in a furious attack. But in its rage, it lost all rationality, its attacks becoming wild and uncoordinated, which Zhou Yi easily dodged. Seeing this, Zhou Yi taunted, "Your speed is too slow." But the next second, Zhou Yi was pierced by a sudden attack, a painful reminder that overconfidence comes at a cost. He had really messed up this time. No matter how much he practiced in the school simulation, facing a real monster was a different challenge entirely. Luckily, the paladin class came with a healing skill, slow regeneration. Within 30 seconds, it could restore HP for 2 teammates within a certain range. After slowly recovering, Zhou Yi put away his earlier arrogance. From now on, I won't underestimate any enemy. The monster swung its claws once again, and Zhou Yi focused holy energy into his palm, shaping it into a golden cross. Activating his skill Pure White Blade, the skill hit the monster, dealing light damage and leaving it in a stunned state. The golden holy energy quickly engulfed the monster's figure. Then, Zhou Yi pushed off with his toes. A burst of golden light erupted from his eyes. Activating his skilled Tiger Strike, the hard stone shattered instantly, and the monster's proud horns broke off. Zhou Yi flashed in front of the monster, gathering holy light magic into his fists, pounding down like a rain of blows. The monster's once impenetrable armor cracked with every strike, until the final blow pierced its body, successfully killing Gulabi, and completing the trial. Trial reading: A. Please choose 2 rewards from the following 3 options. Zhou Yi looked at the panel in front of him, deep in thought. Attributes are the foundation of any class, and only with a strong foundation can one maximize the effectiveness of skills. So choosing free attribute points seemed like the best option. A suitable weapon, however, would be extremely helpful for future trials. With his current finances, Zhou Yi couldn't afford even a basic weapon. Without hesitation, he chose 10 free attribute points and a weapon. After leaving the trial field, the alarm on his phone rang in his pocket. He checked the time and realized it was a reminder for 5 p.m. Every day at this time, Zhou Yi would visit the hospital to see his sister. The scene shifted, and Zhou Yi's sister was watching the latest news about job class advancements on TV. Suddenly, the nurse stormed in, turning off the TV in a fit of rage, and pulled out a medical bill, sarcastically urging, "Time to pay the 10,000 medical fees." His sister took the bill in disbelief, her hands trembling as she asked the doctor if there was a mistake. Last month it was only 5, how did it suddenly jump to 10,000? The nurse sneered. "You've used more medicine this month, plus you hired a priest. You've had 3 episodes, and we had to rush around at night taking care of you." She didn't forget to add a cold jab. "If you can't afford the treatment, then don't bother." Just then, a man with a gloomy expression appeared behind the nurse. He kindly patted her on the shoulder. "Miss Nurse, I overheard you insulting the patient. I'm going to file a complaint." Seeing the man's imposing aura, the nurse immediately shrank back, thinking, Better not mess with this guy. As she left, she warned, Zhou Yi, the medical fee must be paid today. After the nurse left, Zhou Yi's sister still didn't relax. She carefully asked, "Who are you?" To her surprise, the man in charge respectfully handed over his business card, introducing himself. "We're friends of your brother." At that moment, Zhou Yi opened the door, holding the bill in his hand, and asked in confusion, "Why did 100,000 Li show up in my account?" As he looked up, he saw two unfamiliar men standing at the door. His sister was overjoyed to see him, and the man stood up, smiling as he introduced himself, "Mr. Zhou Yi. Hello, I'm Zhao Wenbin, the mayor's secretary. I'd like to discuss something with you." He extended his right hand, though Zhou Yi didn't understand why such an important person would come looking for him. He shook the secretary's hand. "This room isn't convenient for a conversation. Let's go somewhere else." A moment later, they were sitting in a cafe. After a brief exchange, Zhou Yi learned that the mayor had sent his secretary to congratulate him on awakening the paladin class, and had asked the media not to disturb his family. The mayor had also specially arranged a batch of cultivation resources for him, to help him prepare for the upcoming major exams, and Zhou Yi could use the city's banking resources at will. If he had other requests, he could make them too. But as someone who had lived two lives, Zhou Yi was very clear that there's no such thing as a free lunch. Clearly, the mayor was hoping for something in return. However, this wasn't enough to sway him. Seeing that Zhou Yi wasn't moved, the secretary then dropped the bombshell. "Starting today, the city will arrange the best medical team for Miss Zhou Yi, and we've already contacted a level 30 second-tier priest, who will treat her in a month." This news hit Zhou Yi right where it hurt, and he immediately decided to accept the help. This also meant that his verbal agreement with the mayor had been sealed. Afterwards, Zhou Yi returned to the hospital room, where he started talking to his sister about the awakening of his class. Zhou Yi, excited, said, "I want to be my brother's little sidekick. That way I can follow you and soar even higher." Hearing this, Zhou Yi slapped his sister on the forehead. "All you know is talking nonsense. You need to focus on getting better now." Curious, his sister asked, "Bro, what's your exclusive skill?" That question suddenly made Zhou Yi realize he had awakened 3 skills: the main attack skill, Pure White Blade; the main healing skill, Slow Regeneration; and the main support skill, Weapon Blessing. Slow Regeneration was perfect for testing on his sister. With that in mind, Zhou Yi placed his hand on his sister's forehead, activating the skill Slow Regeneration. The holy light magic quickly enveloped her, and she immediately felt an unprecedented sense of comfort, as if she were soaking in a hot spring, receiving a full-body massage. When the healing was over, Zhou Yi was astonished to find that her cold limbs were now radiating warmth, and the joints that had been aching were no longer painful. Seeing his sister so happy, a slight smile appeared in Zhou Yi's eyes. Though he couldn't fully cure her, at least she would feel better, if only for a while. The next day, Zhou Yi arrived at the principal's office on time. The principal immediately took him to meet the teachers from 4 top-tier universities. If he could get into any of them, he would receive the best training available. At that moment, Zhou Yi asked, "Why aren't the top 3 elite universities here?" The principal slowly explained, "The top 3 universities never care about talent or profession, they only care about the results of the big exam." A moment later, they reached the door, and before they entered, they could already hear arguing from inside. Without hesitation, the principal opened the door. "Teachers from the admissions office, the genius Zhou Yi is here." The principal then began introducing the teachers one by one. "This is Professor Zhao Tianfu from Wangyang University, Professor Li Bing from Huanan University, Professor Zhu Yu from Hansheng University, and Professor Yu Wan from Onji University." Zhao Tianfu immediately got to the point. "If you come to our school, we'll give you 2 million won in cash and 3 exclusive Holy Knight skill books." These conditions were almost unimaginable, since the average family earned about 100,000 yuan a year, and Rongying University was offering 2 million, while the Holy Knight skill books were something ordinary people couldn't even dream of getting. Seeing this, Li Bing from Huanan University sneered, "Rongying University is so stingy. If Zhou Yi comes to Chuan University, we'll offer 3 million in cash, any 3 Holy Knights skill books, and a 56 level 3 turn knight instructor personally teaching you. Hearing this, everyone was shocked. A 56 level 3 turn knight was nearly at the peak of strength, and becoming their disciple would open up unimaginable prospects. At that moment, Professor Zhou Yi from Hanqing University interrupted. Your sincerity is still lacking. If Zhou Yi joins Hanqing University, the school will immediately offer him B-tier resources. The principal was so excited his heart was about to jump out of his chest, practically begging Zhou Yi to choose Han City University. B-tier resources. This is not something money can measure. The rare treasures it contains could even turn a pig into an A-level monster. The atmosphere grew heavy as everyone waited for Zhou Yi to make his decision. To everyone's surprise, Zhou Yi rejected all the special offers. Professor Zhou Yi, now looking displeased, asked, "Why are you rejecting these offers?" It turned out that Zhou Yi had much bigger goals. He wanted to get into the top 3 elite universities. Among the top 10 universities worldwide, the top 3 Suang University, Qingjing University, and Moju University only accepted 1,000 new students each year and never offered special admissions. Everything depended on the big exam results. Upon hearing this, Zhao Tianfu became furious. "I thought you were a promising talent, but turns out you're just an arrogant fool." Zhao Tianfu had looked up Zhou Yi's information beforehand, and found that in the 18 years of his life, he had never had any resources. His strength was weak, and his attributes were low. He was practically unqualified to get into the top 3 schools. Zhao Tianfu's aura instantly exploded, nearly crushing Zhou Yi to the ground. Just then, the principal stood in front of Zhou Yi, his powerful aura clashing with Zhao Tianfu's, forming an unbreakable barrier. "Professor Zhao, what do you mean by this? How dare you bully my student on my turf?" Professor Zhou Yi, seeing Zhou Yi withstand Zhao Tianfu's pressure for 3 seconds, couldn't help but be surprised. Could it be that he really has a chance to enter the top 3 schools? Seeing the stalemate, Zhao Tianfu snorted and turned to leave. "I'll wait and see which top-tier university Zhou Yi manages to get into." At this point, Professor Zhou Yi kindly reminded him, "You indeed have courage, but what Zhao Tianfu said isn't entirely wrong. There are countless geniuses in the country. Some of them are as strong as sea-level warriors from birth. Your current strength, it's almost impossible for you to make it." Zhou Yi smiled confidently. "I'll prove my decision was right with the big exam results." He was so confident, because there was still 1 month before the big exam, and with the system's assistance, he could improve his strength to an unimaginable level in that time. A month later, the big exam arrived on schedule. With Zhou Yi's arrival, everyone was stunned, because they could clearly sense a powerful aura emanating from him. When the exam content was announced, everyone was shocked to realize that this assessment was practically designed to be an obstacle, making it nearly impossible for students to pass. It turns out, this year's exam was, survive for half an hour in the dungeon Gloomy Forest. The environment of this dungeon was dark and complicated, with not only the nimble cat demons, but also the tough minotaur monsters. Most students wouldn't last even a minute. At that moment, the exam instructor sternly reminded everyone, "If you encounter deadly danger in the dungeon, immediately use your return scroll. Remember, death in the dungeon means real death. It's better to fail the exam than lose your life." With that, several telepathic arrays appeared in the air, and in the blink of an eye, hundreds of students disappeared. When they opened their eyes again, they had entered the dungeon Gloomy Forest. However, what the Education Bureau director didn't expect was that while the other students chose to team up and tackle the medium difficulty dungeon, Zhou Yi boldly chose to face the nightmare-level dungeon alone. Soloing the dungeon would earn him massive points, but the risk of death also skyrocketed to 50%. Moreover, as a paladin, Zhou Yi possessed formidable support abilities, so no matter which team he joined, he could easily crush the enemies. This infuriated the director, as the city had provided abundant resources for Zhou Yi over the past month. If he were to die in the dungeon, the prestige of the entire Zhangli city would take a major blow. Hearing this, Principal Luo quickly comforted him. Zhou Yi has never been reckless. He must have some hidden trump cards. The scene shifts. As Zhou Yi enters the dungeon, he is immediately surrounded by a horde of monsters. His eyes narrow as he summons the already prepared mountain-cleaving axe from his system panel. In the next moment, a cat demon with sharp claws lunges at Zhou Yi, but his massive axe strikes first, instantly cleaving the cat demon in half. Although he couldn't level up this month, Zhou Yi distributed all his attribute points evenly, boosting each stat to a staggering 47 points. This level of power was nothing short of monstrous genius, even in the entire Suang province. However, before he could catch his breath, dozens of monsters had already silently surrounded him, preparing to ambush from behind. Zhou Yi sneers and activates his skill weapon blessing. Golden magic power floods his pupils, and he spins, swinging the axe at the monsters behind him. With the boost from the paladin skills, the mountain-cleaving axe becomes like the Grim Reaper's scythe, quickly harvesting the monsters' lives. In no time, he had dealt with the ambushers. Before Zhou Yi could even take a breath, 3 more cat demons opened their massive mouths and pounced on him. In a split second, Zhou Yi barely has time to react. At the very last moment, he spins and activates the skill Pure White Blade. The cat demons are frozen in place, and the massive axe swings through them, piercing their bodies. The younger students watching the scene are absolutely astonished. Not many people could wield a huge axe like Zhou Yi. Could it be that he invested all his free attribute points into strength? However, the experienced homeroom teacher saw through the trick. If you looked closely, Zhou Yi's speed was even faster than that of the cat demon. Not only that, but his casting speed was incredibly quick, and his power was immense. This meant that his intelligence attribute must also be quite high. Looking at the angles, range, and power of his swings, everything was perfectly calculated. It was clear that he was a battle genius. However, the Education Bureau director didn't see it that way. Sure, Zhou Yi had exceptional combat awareness, but in the first wave of cat demons, he had already exhausted too much energy. In a nightmare-level dungeon, not only were the monsters' strength extremely high, but their numbers were also vast. Even the best mages could fail if they ran out of magic power. What's more, the mountain-cleaving axe was extremely tiring to wield. A few swings would make you feel fatigue, but after hundreds of swings, you'd be drained, barely able to stand. Eventually, Zhou Yi might be torn to pieces by the cat demons, just as the Education Bureau director had predicted. Within moments, hundreds of cat demons swarmed toward Zhou Yi like a tidal wave, giving him no chance to breathe. As everyone wondered if Zhou Yi would be eliminated, he demonstrated with action why geniuses are called geniuses. He swung his giant axe and charged straight into the monster horde, killing everything in his path. Then, he took a step back, gathered magic power, and activated Pure White Blade. The cross-shaped white blade shattered the ground like thunder, and in the next instant, his axe flew from his hands, crashing down with the force of a thunderbolt, wiping out the cat demons suspended in mid-air. Zhou Yi quickly retrieved his giant axe and struck again, delivering a fatal blow, cleaving the last cat demon in half. With an overwhelming offensive, he wiped out hundreds of cat demons in the blink of an eye. At this moment, a blue portal suddenly appeared in front of him. As it expanded, Zhou Yi stepped forward without hesitation, entering the portal leading to the second stage. Upon entering, he was immediately greeted by an overwhelming horde of monsters. The oppressive magic in the air seemed to tear apart the atmosphere. Zhou Yi immediately activated his skill appraisal and, as expected, this nightmare-level dungeon was far from easy to clear. Starting from the second stage, not only were there ordinary warrior-type cat demons, but there were also mutated cat demons acting as priests and mages. What was even more troublesome was the tough, leathery-skinned minotaur, lurking nearby, watching with malicious intent. If the first stage was a disorganized mob, the second stage was a well-trained army, and the threat of death had increased 100-fold. Suddenly, the minotaur blew the horn of attack, and in the next instant it charged toward Zhou Yi with a skill savage charge. At the same time, the mutated cat demon began gathering magic power in its palms. Zhou Yi felt a chill on his back as eerie tentacles emerged from the ground, binding him in place. With the charging force closing in, ready to tear him to pieces, the students in the audience looked on, some even covering their eyes. However, Zhou Yi sneered and said, "Impressive team coordination, but it's nothing special." In the next second, he gathered holy light magic power in his hands, A golden flash passed through the corner of his eyes as he activated the skill Holy Light Cross. A massive cross shot up from the ground in an instant. Under the holy light, all the monsters screamed in pain, and within moments, they were utterly consumed by the holy light. This was Zhou Yi's newly unlocked Gale skill Holy Light Cross. It summoned a massive cross behind him, inflicting continuous light damage to enemies within a certain radius. Upon witnessing this, the Education Bureau director was stunned. This was a B-level area of effects skill. Just like talents, B-level skills are much harder to awaken and acquire at higher levels. The resources provided by the government could only support skills up to C level. From this, it was clear that Zhou Yi's talent far surpassed everyone's expectations. The scene shifted, and now, among the hundreds of monsters, only the strongest Minotaur remained. Seeing this, the Minotaur no longer held back its strengths. It activated two skills in rapid succession, Frenzied Fury and Titanic Body, greatly enhancing its attributes. Next, the Minotaur used War Tread, instantly destroying the ground beneath Zhou Yi's feet, the only place where he could stand. Then, it followed up with Savage Charge. Under the enhancement of Titanic Body, no amount of damage could interrupt its charge. Zhou Yi, seeing this, didn't hesitate for a moment. He leaped into the air and activated his skill, Air Slash. This skill was simple yet direct. Since he couldn't interrupt the Minotaur's charge, he would change its path instead. Without giving the Minotaur a chance to catch its breath, Zhou Yi immediately activated the golden cross on his chest and unleashed his skill Pure White Blade. Like a startled arrow, the white blade shot towards the Minotaur. Struck by the attack, the Minotaur was instantly frozen mid-air. Zhou Yi took this opportunity to swiftly move in front of the beast, swinging his mountain cutting axe, now enhanced by divine magic. Like a lightning strike, he swung the axe with all his might at the Minotaur's waist. In an instant, the terrifying Minotaur, which had made everyone tremble in fear, was split in half by Zhou Yi's giant axe. However, to Zhou Yi's surprise, the Minotaur's vitality was far more resilient than he had anticipated. Even after being cleaved in two, it didn't die. Seeing this, Zhou Yi sneered. He raised his right foot, and with a loud crack, he severed the Minotaur's life once and for all. Immediately after, the portal to the third stage appeared before him. At this moment, the audience erupted into cheers. Never before had a lower-grade student killed a Minotaur in a berserk state with a single blow. This achievement was enough to make history. What was even more shocking was that Zhou Yi cleared the second stage faster than the first. He completed it in just 59 seconds. The director of education didn't hold back his praise, exclaiming, "Incredible! He's only been promoted for a month. His skill execution and power control are flawless." Then, the director turned to the principal standing beside him and congratulated. "Looks like Principal Luo is in for a promotion and a raise this year." Principal Luo smiled faintly. On the surface, he remained calm, but inwardly, waves of excitement were brewing. Since the establishment of the school, the best ranking had only been 7-1 once in the province, but with Zhou Yi's arrival, perhaps the school could reach new heights. However, just then, the two men's expressions suddenly changed. The director slammed his hand on the table, his face filled with anger. This is too reckless. If his state isn't fully recovered and he fails in the third stage, it will all be for nothing. The reason Zhou Yi dared to take such a risk was that Suzhou Hangzhou was a province with a large population and many talents. Over 100 students challenged the Nightmare Mode solo every year. To rise to the top, one had to clear the stages in the shortest possible time. Meanwhile, Zhou Yi had already entered the boss room. Before him stood the Minotaur King, a creature 6 levels higher than him. Due to the massive level difference, Zhou Yi couldn't detect the Minotaur King's skills. This meant that every step he took from here on out had to be taken with extreme caution. Suddenly, the Minotaur King took the initiative and launched an attack. Its strike shattered the ground like thunder, but the shockwave left the Minotaur King momentarily stunned. By the time it recovered, Zhou Yi had already transformed into his paladin initial form, coldly watching everything around him. Holy, divine energy enveloped him, and golden magical flames lit up the entire space. Zhou Yi, moving like the wind, dashed to the Minotaur King's side. He swung his giant axe, blessed by divine power. A deafening roar echoed throughout the room. However, to Zhou Yi's surprise, Even with 4 enhancement skills on his axe, he couldn't break through the Minotaur King's thick skin. The two were locked in a deadlock. But as Zhou Yi released more divine energy, sparks began to fly from the Minotaur King's skin, under the strikes of his axe. Just as the defensive line was about to break, the Minotaur King let out an earth-shattering roar. It broke free from its restraints, and swung its giant hammer at Zhou Yi. The hammer, like a bolt of lightning, slammed into the ground, sending up huge waves of smoke. Suddenly, a figure dashed out of the smoke, but before Zhou Yi could react, the Minotaur King's hammer struck first, hitting Zhou Yi squarely. With a loud bang, Zhou Yi was sent flying through 3 pillars and crashed into the hard wall. The sudden attack shocked Zhou Yi. If not for the protection of his paladin armor, his bones might have shattered on impact. However, this fight allowed Zhou Yi to finally understand how to defeat the Minotaur King. With determination, golden divine energy gathered at his fingertips as he activated the skill Spear of Victory. In an instant, several magic circles appeared in the air, and the divine spears, charged with holy power, were ready to strike. The next moment, the spears shot out with a chilling speed, heading straight for the Minotaur King. But the Minotaur King casually swung its arm and easily blocked the rapid, thunderous attack. Seeing this, Zhou Yi's heart sank. The Minotaur King's strength and physique were far beyond his. It was impossible to suppress it with raw power alone. Under normal circumstances, he would adopt a kite strategy, drag out the fight, and wear the beast down. But with the province champion title on the line, he couldn't afford to take too long. Yet, Zhou Yi quickly regained his composure. He knew that the exam organizers would never trap the students in a dead end. There had to be a way to break through. Zhou Yi immediately launched the Spear of Victory again. As expected, the spear was once again easily blocked by the Minotaur King. At this moment, Zhou Yi suddenly realized that the Minotaur King's attacks were always wide and sweeping. This was because its agility was extremely low. So, large-scale, unrestricted attacks were difficult for it to handle. If he could keep up the pressure, he'd eventually find an opening. But then, a system warning suddenly sounded. Magic power is decreasing. Please replenish your magic in time. As Zhou Yi continued his onslaught, the Minotaur King's other weakness became apparent: resistance. Though it had incredibly high durability and health, it was highly susceptible to negative effects and damage when struck. This meant that Zhou Yi had to land multiple blows on the Minotaur King in a short amount of time. Without hesitation, Zhou Yi took advantage of the Minotaur King's injury to its leg and charged. In a flurry of spears, holy flames engulfed the Minotaur King, but the beast still didn't die. Next, Zhou Yi leaped into the air, summoning a holy sword. Just as the Minotaur King prepared to unleash its ultimate move, Zhou Yi struck, cleaving the beast in two with a single swing. At the same time, the system notification sounded. Congratulations on clearing the nightmare-level Deep Dark Forest dungeon. Completion time, 9 minutes and 24 seconds. Then, Zhou Yi raised his head, and suddenly, done! Your completion rating is S rank. Congratulations, you are now the first to hold the record for clearing this dungeon. Hearing this, Zhou Yi leaped up in excitement. This is amazing! It had been a whole year since he crossed into this world. His mother passed away, and his younger sister was critically ill. The overwhelming medical bills had nearly suffocated this 14-year-old boy. But even so, Zhou Yi had never given up. In such difficult circumstances, where he couldn't level up his stats, he focused on honing his combat skills and building his battle awareness. And just when he was at his most desperate, the system had given him a second chance, like an angel. This opportunity was one he absolutely couldn't miss. No one could shake his resolve. Next, Zhou Yi prepared to leave the dungeon and checked his rewards. Level 13 reached. 2 pieces of equipment, the Forest Belt and the Forest Ring. These items provided continuous buffs when fighting in the forest, based on the wearer's attributes. He also received 10 wild strawberries to restore magic power, and a golden-level Minotaur King card, used for enchantment. When Zhou Yi's figure appeared at the academy, instantly, the trial grounds were filled with loud cheers that shook the entire area. The principal and director Jia personally descended from the stage to welcome him, marking a historic moment that had never occurred in the academy's 100-year history. With the principal's years of experience, Zhou Yi's strength had the potential to claim the provincial champion title for Suang province. Director Jia told him, The results will be out in 3 days at the earliest. You should go rest for now. We'll notify you as soon as the results are available. After the exam ended, Zhou Yi immediately headed to the hospital. Since Zhao Wenbin had fulfilled his promise, Zhou Yun had been admitted to the hospital's luxurious medical ward, with a professional medical team monitoring her condition 24. Zhou Yi's purpose today was to share the good news of his exam results with his sister. The moment Zhou Yi stepped into the elevator, he felt something was wrong. The temperature inside was abnormally low, as if he had entered the depths of winter. When he reached the floor where his sister's room was, the sight before him caused him to freeze in his tracks. The entire floor had been sealed in frost, and those doctors who hadn't escaped in time had all turned into ice statues. This scene made Zhou Yi's pupils dilate in shock, but he didn't hesitate and rushed toward his sister's room. The nurse behind him tried to stop him, but as soon as her hand touched the elevator door, she was instantly frozen, turning into an ice sculpture, her fate unknown. Zhou Yi paid her no mind, breaking through layers of ice. Finally reaching his sister's room, what he saw made his pupils shrink in disbelief. A giant dragon, its body wrapped in piercing cold, was coiled in front of his sister's bed. When the dragon saw Zhou Yi, it suddenly opened its enormous jaws and lunged at him. Without hesitation, Zhou Yi gathered divine energy in his hands, ready to strike back. However, beside him, Sis Qing urgently shouted, "Don't attack!" Zhou Yi froze for a moment, then withdrew his divine power. The dragon also retracted its fangs. Pausing in front of him, Sis Qing explained, "Little Yun's cold syndrome suddenly flared up, and everyone was frozen into ice pillars. This dragon is an incarnation of the cold air. If you hurt it rashly, little Yun's heart veins will likely shatter." She took a deep breath, her gaze firm. "What I can do now is only to contain the cold energy to this floor." "Zhou Yi, you need to leave immediately." Zhou Yi wanted to say something, but before he could speak, he was interrupted by Sis Qing's cold voice. "Without a high-level priest, all I can do is maintain the current situation." Upon hearing Sis Qing's words, Zhou Yi said nothing further. He immediately called up the system and allocated all his skill points into the slow healing ability. A golden light flashed, and the skill upgraded from level 4 to level 10, enhanced slow healing. Zhou Yi quickly activated this new skill on his sister, and divine energy surged forth. Even Sis Qing was stunned by the powerful aura of the Holy Knight's magic. It was so potent that it even surpassed her own abilities as a level 23 priest. As the divine power made contact, the thick ice rapidly began to melt away. Once Zhou Yi ensured his sister's condition was temporarily stabilized, he asked Sis Qing to urgently contact Secretary Zhao and request that a high-level priest be brought in. However, Sis Qing explained that the appointment with the high-level priest had been scheduled for next week, and it would be impossible to rush it. Hearing this, a look of determination flashed in Zhou Yi's eyes. He said firmly, "Tell Secretary Zhao that if he can bring a high-level priest, I, Zhou Yi, will unconditionally agree to any request from him at any time in the future." Sis Qing looked into Zhou Yi's resolute eyes, and though hesitant, agreed to his request. She turned and left the hospital to find Secretary Zhao. Meanwhile, Zhou Yi focused all his energy on suppressing the cold air. The cold had always been a painful affliction his sister, Zhou Yun, had to endure every night. It caused her excruciating pain, making her suffer so much it was as though she were better off dead. But what Zhou Yi hadn't expected was that today, the cold energy would directly affect the outside world. As the minutes ticked by, Zhou Yi felt his strength gradually drain away under the relentless assault of the freezing cold. Just as the ice dragon was about to consume him, a green orb, pulsing with vibrant life energy, shot through the air and struck the dragon right in the eye. The orb quickly ricocheted across the ice dragon's body, landing multiple powerful blows. The force was so intense that the dragon seemed to crack under the pressure. However, Zhou Yi noticed a look of pain appear on his sister's face. His expression instantly changed. "Stop!" he shouted urgently. But the green orb responded by knocking him back several dozen meters. A woman stood nearby, her hand making a mocking gesture toward the dragon. With a single leap, she wrapped in ice were finally freed. "I'm Kailina, a level 35 second-tier priest from Qingwun City. Director Jia asked me to come early and treat your sister," she said. At first, Nia hadn't wanted to break protocol to intervene, but after director Jia personally vouched for Zhou Yi's potential to become the provincial top scorer, she decided to step in. Seeing Zhou Yi's determination in resisting the cold only further increased her respect for him. Ignoring his injuries, Zhou Yi quickly asked, "What exactly is wrong with my sister? Can it be cured?" Lian answered, "Your sister is experiencing a bloodline awakening. That's why the cold energy is overflowing and forming a dragon." Zhou Yi was stunned. So that's what it was. In the early days of the Eternal World, many players had chosen races like the elves or giants, and these bloodline traits started to emerge as the virtual world and the real world began to merge. For example, humans with elf bloodline would have green eyes and slightly longer ears, while those with giant blood could grow up to 3 or 4 meters tall. Though these traits would fade after around 200 years, there was one exception: bloodline awakening. A bloodline awakening was both a blessing and a curse. A successful awakening would not only grant mastery over the powers of that race, but would also make leveling up and learning skills much easier. But failure, it could leave one paralyzed or, in the worst case, lead to death. Zhou Yi was frozen in place. "So the pain my sister's been enduring from the cold, it's because she can't handle the awakening of her bloodline power?" Lian nodded. "Yes, her bloodline is rare. It's the frost bloodline. To successfully awaken it, she needs to change her physical constitution. The only way to do that is to find the extreme cold ice lotus." Zhou Yi's heart sank. The extreme cold ice lotus had last appeared at an auction, sold to a mysterious buyer 30 years ago for a staggering 30 billion. But, Lian continued, "There's another way. Instead of using the ice lotus, we could seal her bloodline directly with a great sealing technique. The downside is that she will never be able to level up again." She then handed Zhou Yi a token. "Once you've made your decision, use this to contact me." Time flew by quickly. Over the past 5 days, Zhou Yi completed the system's daily tasks at full capacity. The rewards were abundant, but he always chose free attribute points. For a paladin, health and intelligence were crucial, as only by strengthening these attributes could he truly unleash the full power of a paladin. At this moment, the system prompt sounded. "Congratulations, you have ranked first in the Suang province in this major exam. You have received the divine level skill, God's Hand. The S-rank divine artifact Rebirth 10 Scriptures, a one-time divine secret technique, Summon God, the rare skill Light's Judgment, as well as 30 free attribute points and 30 skill points." The next morning, the news of Zhou Yi winning first place spread like wildfire across the internet. He had become a dark horse, quickly entering the public's eye. In no time, Zhou Yi's victory became the talk of the town. Almost no one could believe that a paladin had soloed a nightmare-level dungeon. When people saw the footage of Zhou Yi clearing the dungeon, they immediately became his fans. The Holy Cross, which was as powerful as high-level magic, and a bunch of over-the-top buffs, left everyone speechless. At the press conference, director Jia couldn't stop praising him. "When Zhou Yi class changed into a paladin, I knew he was destined for greatness. That's why I recommended to the city government to invest more in his training. It's all because I have an eye for talent." Soon after, Zhou Yi received a bank transfer from the Education Bureau. Secretary Zhao also called immediately. "Mr. Zhou, based on your outstanding performance in the major exam, the government has decided to reward you with 5 million in cash and a luxury villa." Secretary Zhao continued. "I heard that the admissions officers from the top 3 universities are coming soon. Would you like me to send a car to take you to the school?" Zhou Yi directly rejected Secretary Zhao's proposal. At that moment, the admissions officers from the top 3 universities appeared before him. "Hello, Zhou Yi. I'm an admissions officer from Wangyang University," one of them greeted, but before he could finish, a rebellious voice echoed through the sky. "I remember Wangyang University was the one that called Zhou Yi arrogant and scolded him for being out of his depth. What's this? Showing up now?" A burly man swaggered down a ladder, mocking them. The Wangyang University admissions officer immediately panicked and quickly explained, "That was Zhao Tianfu's fault. He's been removed from his position and expelled. If Zhou Yi is willing to come to our university, Wangyang University is offering 4 million. Before he could finish speaking, the burly man interrupted him, his tone full of dominance. "Whatever conditions Wangyang University offers, Motu University will double them." At that moment, a figure appeared behind Zhou Yi with lightning speed. so fast that the Modu University admissions officer didn't even have time to react. A woman swiftly grabbed Zhou Yi and flew into the air, her voice soft yet mocking. You think you can just take him? Have you asked Qingjing University? The woman held Zhou Yi tightly and whispered, Qingjing University may not have everything, but we have plenty of cultivation resources. As long as Zhou Yi comes, you'll get a level resources every year. Just as she finished speaking, there was a loud bang, and a huge magic circle appeared in the sky. Within it, a woman in black stood with an air of elegance, coldly declaring, what Qingjing University can offer, Suang University can match. Kidnapping him is not a skill. If you don't release him, don't blame me for being rude. The burly man from Modu University was not to be outdone. Exactly. A forced deal is never sweet. Modu University not only offers a level resources every year, but also provides a full set of golden level gear each year. Faced with the strong stance of the two universities, the pink-haired woman from Qingjing University had no choice but to release Zhou Yi, quietly explaining, I just wanted to have a private friendly conversation with Zhou Yi. At this moment, the woman in black from Suang University spoke up. I am Sumei from the admissions office of Suang University. Suang University believes in the power of strength. As long as you can make it onto our Earth ranking or Heaven ranking, you can take not just a grade resources, but also S-grade resources. More importantly, in the past 4 years, our freshman exchange competition has consistently ranked first, proving the capability of our college in nurturing students. The pink-haired woman rebutted with a hint of dissatisfaction. Sumei, what do you mean by that? Just because you won a few matches, you think you're that great? Unlike the bickering admission officers, Zhou Yi lowered his head and fell into deep thought. The special admissions offers from the 3 universities were nearly identical. Any choice would guarantee an incredible future. However, if he wanted more hands-on combat experience, Suang University was undoubtedly the best choice. Upon hearing this, Sumei's face showed a smug smile as she summoned a special admissions contract with a wave of her hand. The pink-haired woman, still unwilling to back down, said, if you're not comfortable at Suang University, Qingjing University will unconditionally welcome you to transfer. At this moment, Zhou Yi was already stunned by Sumei's impressive skills. What she had done was the mark of a high-level mage, casting spells without a staff. May I ask, Teacher Su, what level are you as a professional? Zhou Yi couldn't help but ask. Sumei smiled and replied, under 30 years old, and I am already a level 42 second transmutation mage, and once you enter Suang University, you'll meet even younger and stronger individuals. Hearing this response, Zhou Yi was filled with excitement and immediately signed his name on the special admission contract without hesitation. With Zhou Yi's signature, the contract was officially established. Sumei took back the contract and informed Zhou Yi that she would come to pick him up in 1 week to take him to the university. As a special admission student, Zhou Yi would receive the highest level of training from the college. Only by rapidly improving his strength could he perform better in the upcoming National College Freshman Exchange competition. After Sumei left, Zhou Yi brought his sister to the villa gifted by the government. As soon as they entered, his sister was so stunned by the luxurious decorations that her mouth dropped open. Secretary Zhao then explained, this is just the annex the government gave you. 3 floors in total. The second floor is a specialized training room, while the third floor features a huge terrace and a relaxation area. The total area is almost 1 square meters. It's also equipped with the latest ultra-micro-nano multi-sensor intelligent companion robot, which monitors little Yun's health status at all times. I won't disturb you any longer. You and Miss Zhou should rest well, Secretary Zhao said, preparing to leave. But Zhou Yi stopped him. Secretary Zhao, there's one more thing I'd like to ask of you. Little Yun isn't fully recovered yet, although Sis Qing is taking care of her. I hope you can watch over her for a bit longer. Secretary Zhao immediately responded, it's my honor. Mr. Zhou Yi, don't worry, I'll take good care of her. Time flew by quickly, and Zhou Yi was soon about to head to the academy. Before he left, he reminded his sister to take good care of her health. With that, Zhou Yi set off for the academy. However, as soon as the car accelerated, it rushed into a teleportation array. By the time Zhou Yi realized what had happened, he had already arrived at Anning University City. Looking up at the dense array of teleportation gates in the sky, he couldn't help but marvel. Large magic arrays are typically controlled by the military, And even the small teleportation arrays like the one Priest Kui used require approval from the city government. He hadn't expected that Suang University could use them freely. Su Mei explained, this is because Suang University has a partnership with the military zone, so they built large teleportation arrays around the school. It's both convenient and safe. When Zhou Yi looked up, he was shocked by the sight before him. Suang University was built on a mountain that was at least 10,000 meters high, and the entrance gate was over 100 meters tall. Then, Zhou Yi followed Su Mei to report. Suddenly, a cold arrow shot towards him from behind. Zhou Yi swiftly sidestepped. Upon taking a closer look, he saw a figure. The person was a white-haired woman exuding a chilling aura. A murderous glint flashed in her eyes as she coldly said, I told you I don't want to know you. This kick is a warning. If you bother me again, don't blame me for being rude. As Zhou Yi watched the white-haired woman's figure disappear into the distance, he noticed the magic runes on her body, an obvious mark of demonic bloodline. Su Mei, seeing Zhou Yi's reaction, explained, in the university city, many students and teachers have bloodlines from other races. Don't show any strange reactions when you see them. Zhou Yi smiled and nodded. Don't worry, as long as I stand on the human side, I won't hold any hostility, regardless of whether the other party is from a different race. After all, I won't hate the entire demon race just because of my father's death. Su Mei sighed in relief. Then, she pulled out Zhou Yi's student card from her bag and handed it to him. Here's your student card. It contains basic information, as well as your serial number and credits. This system is linked to the school's ranking. Each year has a corresponding serial number. The stronger your strength, the higher your rank. New students are ranked based on the results of the big exam, so you are ranked Hizero, meaning you are the top freshman, but this ranking is only temporary. A month later, there will be a freshman competition, and the rankings will be reset according to the results. At this point, Su Mei's gaze grew stern. You need to understand that from the moment you step into the school, everyone will be trying to replace you. Zhou Yi smiled confidently. No one can take this position from me. Su Mei nodded and continued. The second system is the credit system. Freshmen are given basic credits according to their serial number, which can be used for daily life and purchasing everything needed for cultivation. As long as you have enough credits, you can even buy S-grade skills and resources. There are 3 ways to earn credits. Besides the ranking, you can participate in credit tasks. By logging into the official task board with your student card, you can accept and complete missions to earn credits. The second way is through the Earth and Heaven rankings, where you will receive fixed monthly credits based on your position. Su Mei finally reminded Zhou Yi, you must not become arrogant. There are 5,000 students in the entire academy, but only a handful can make it to the Earth and Heaven rankings. Su Mei led Zhou Yi to the dungeon area in the academy. There were 3 special dungeon instances in the school. Goblin Dungeon, Level Restriction, 1721. Twisted Jungle Dungeon, Level Restriction, 2326. Purgatory Dungeon, Level Restriction, 28330. In addition to the level restrictions, entering these dungeons required a certain amount of credits. If a student hadn't reached the required level, they could train in the training field, where the opponents could either be real people or combat robots. The academy's rule for survival was simple. The strong rule. Stronger students held the most influence and could acquire the most resources. After hearing Su Mei's introduction, Zhou Yi's excitement grew. He knew he had come to the right place. Just then, Zhou Yi encountered a group of freshmen led by a senior. After greeting Su Mei, the new students curiously turned their attention to Zhou Yi. After all, even these freshmen were grouped into teams of 10, each led by a senior. But Zhou Yi was being guided by a teacher personally. Before long, someone revealed Zhou Yi's identity. Did you all not know? Every year, the top student of the special admissions program is assigned a dedicated teacher to help them settle in. The goal is to help them get familiar with the school faster, and to recruit them into the academy later on. This means he's the top freshman of this year. As soon as these words left their mouth, everyone was stunned. They turned to the wise Bai for confirmation. Who is this person, really? The wise Bai slowly spoke. He's Zhou Yi, the provincial champion of Suang province, a 13th grade paladin. Hearing this, everyone was even more shocked and began whispering, a paladin? Isn't that more of a support class? Are you sure, wise Bai? While the crowd debated, the white-haired woman from earlier stood a little further away, her gaze unintentionally falling on Zhou Yi's back. She was momentarily lost in thought. The red-haired man beside her quickly noticed her shift in attention and felt a surge of dissatisfaction. Without caring about the onlookers, he immediately confronted Zhou Yi. "I think the so-called dual rank is just a hollow title." Zhou Yi stopped in his tracks and turned to face the red-haired man. "Who are you?" The red-haired man sneered. "I'm Liu Jing, rank 038 at the academy, a 13th grade punishment knight. I suspect you don't even deserve to be rank his or oh Mao. I challenge you." The senior leading the group quickly warned. "Liu Jing, don't waste everyone's time, you'll just end up embarrassing yourself." But Liu Jing wasn't deterred. "Don't worry, senior, I know what I'm doing." He walked up to Zhou Yi with a mocking tone. "100 credits, if you win, it's yours. If you lose, you don't have to pay anything." Zhou Yi looked at Liu Jing's confident expression, a hint of helplessness flashing in his eyes. Perfect. This is exactly the opportunity to get some peace and quiet. However, since he wanted to teach this guy a lesson, he had to make him pay a bigger price. Zhou Yi calmly replied, 300 credits, I'll duel you." Liu Jing felt the pressure in Zhou Yi's gaze, a chill running up his spine. His instincts screamed at him to reject the challenge, but when he noticed the white-haired woman's gaze never leaving Zhou Yi, he gritted his teeth and made up his mind. "Fine. 300 credits it is. Let's head to the arena right now." Zhou Yi sneered. "If you're still standing after 3 moves, I lost." Moments later, the crowd arrived at the combat arena. Suang briefly introduced the rules, a countdown of 3 seconds, and after those 3 seconds, the battle would begin, but no lethal attacks were allowed. As the countdown ended, the battle started. Liu Jing charged forward like a gust of wind. As freshman 38, he had already formulated the perfect plan for this fight. As a Punisher Knight, he focused on explosive damage, while the Paladin class, like Zhou Yi, specialized in supportive buffs. Liu Jing believed that if he could close the gap quickly, without the benefit of buffs, he would easily defeat the Paladin. He hoped to win this battle and gain the favor of the goddess. However, his plan was doomed to fail. Zhou Yi was no ordinary Paladin. Liu Jing leaped into the air with lightning speed, slashing downward with his sword in a powerful blood strike. The blade cut through the air like thunder, but Zhou Yi simply sidestepped with a graceful movement, dodging the attack effortlessly. In the blink of an eye, he delivered a powerful kick to Liu Jing's abdomen, sending him flying out of the ring with tremendous force. One strike was all it took. Liu Jing spat out blood and fell unconscious. The lead senior immediately checked on his injuries and then walked over to Suang, reporting, "Liu Jing has broken ribs and internal bleeding, but there's no immediate danger to his life." Suang coldly responded, "Understood, notify the infirmary and send for a priest to treat him." She then handed Zhou Yi his student card. "The 300 credits have been transferred to your account." At this moment, the crowd was in an uproar. Everyone was stunned. They couldn't believe that the Paladin had crushed the so-called most violent Punisher Knight in such a dominant fashion. Moments later, the white-haired girl walked up to Zhou Yi, her eyes filled with determination. "Zhou Yi, let's have a sparring match." At that moment, Zhou Yi used his identification skill, and discovered that the girl in front of him not only had the bloodline of the demon race, but also possessed a legendary weapon. As someone naturally inclined to battle, Zhou Yi immediately accepted her challenge. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, the second match for the #1 freshman of the academy began. Unlike his previous encounter with Liu Jing, Zhou Yi didn't underestimate his opponent. He summoned his Yuan light warhammer directly, sensing the immense power radiating from the girl. She was no ordinary opponent. As the countdown reached 0, the girl raised her long sword and struck first. Her speed was so fast that even the air around her great sword crackled with electricity. Zhou Yi immediately activated his skills to counter, and a deafening explosion erupted. When the smoke cleared, both of them were unscathed, returning to their starting positions. After this exchange, the white-haired girl clearly realized Zhou Yi's strength. Without hesitation, she unleashed her bloodline ability, the demonic slash, as dark energy rapidly spiraled around her sword. Seeing this, Zhou Yi smiled faintly. "It's been a long time since anyone could go toe-to-toe with me." Before he finished speaking, he swung his warhammer at the girl. The intensity of their battle escalated instantly. Within 10 seconds, they clashed hundreds of times. their speed so fast it seemed like only after images remained. Each time they collided, the energy of the demonic power and divine strength collided, splitting the dueling platform in half. The force of the battle even caused the protective barriers around the platform to tremble. The audience fell silent, astonished by the intensity of the fight. It was hard to believe that this was a battle between two freshmen. Just when everyone thought the match might end in a draw, Li Dongsheng spoke up and declared, "Zhou Yi will win soon." As the head of the Aurora Society and a level 29 sharpshooter, Li Dongsheng was the second person, after Su Mei, to truly understand the situation. He analyzed. From the very beginning, the Saint Knight's three sweeps forced the white-haired girl to barely block one. Now, the Saint Knight swings twice, and she has to use her sword to defend. Since the giant weapons were typically used for defensive counterattacks, conserving energy while searching for weaknesses, Zhou Yi's strategy was extremely clever. He had been limiting the girl's movements, forcing her into a constant defensive stance. This would eventually exhaust the white-haired girl's stamina, who was using a massive sword. As predicted by Li Dongsheng, the white-haired girl collapsed to her knees from exhaustion. But what they didn't know was that all of Zhou Yi's earlier actions had merely been a warm-up. Now, he was ready for his real counterattack. Suddenly, a golden light pillar shot into the sky, powerful and overwhelming, devouring the demonic energy surrounding the girl. The white-haired girl's eyes showed a flash of seriousness as she felt the immense pressure coming from the light, causing her body to tremble. "Is this Zhou Yi's true strength?" she thought in shock. Then, Zhou Yi pointed forward and lightly called out, activating his skill, Spear of Victory. The white-haired girl's eyes flashed with caution, and she swiftly sidestepped to avoid the attack, preparing to counter. But just as she was about to strike, Zhou Yi smiled. A mysterious glow suddenly appeared in front of her, binding her in place and rendering her immobile. At that moment, Zhou Yi's massive warhammer, crackling with thunder, came crashing down. Just as the warhammer was about to strike the girl, the light disappeared, and Zhou Yi, controlling the momentum, slammed the hammer into the ground. He softly asked, "Do you want to continue?" The white-haired girl looked at Zhou Yi and shook her head. "No need, the result will be the same." She realized she was at a disadvantage. Zhou Yi laughed. "You haven't used your full strength, have you? I noticed you didn't unleash your true power." The white-haired girl smiled sweetly. "You noticed?" Then, shyly, she took out her phone and tried to add him as a friend. "It was just a spar, so I didn't use my trump card. By the way, you didn't go all out either. I've seen your exam video." Zhou Yi stared at the white-haired girl, momentarily dazed. After adding her as a friend, Su Mei led him toward the freshman dormitory area. The dormitory area was divided into two parts: the regular zone and the special admissions zone. The regular zone was located at the foot and halfway up the mountain, while the dorms for special admissions were built at the peak. The special admission dorms were individual villas, each equipped with different facilities based on the person's sequence ranking. Su Mei brought Zhou Yi to a villa, just as he was about to enter. Su Mei's words caused his eyes to narrow sharply. "I heard you're looking for the extreme cold ice lotus. A team once saw it in the Gale mountain range, but it was guarded by high-level magical beasts, and they couldn't harvest it. This information is from 6 years ago, so I can't guarantee its accuracy." This piece of information made Zhou Yi immediately start gathering details about the Gale mountain range. The Gale mountain range had risen after the merger of the Eternal Game and Blue Star, spanning over 100,000 square kilometers. It was home to countless rare resources and magical beasts. Its danger level was so high that even third-tier professionals wouldn't dare to venture deep inside. With Zhou Yi's current strength, if he encountered high-level magical beasts, his only option would be to run. However, the good news was that after completing the final exam task, he received a special reward. He could revive once, even if he died. And with his sister's condition in such a critical state, Zhou Yi decided to head to the Gale mountain range, but before doing so, he needed to buy some skills and equipment to boost his strength. As one of the top academies, Suang University, which had won 4 consecutive championships, offered free training for a grade and lower paladin skills. These skills were so powerful that they could stir up a storm in the outside world: immunity to all physical damage, combat skills that didn't rely on weapons. After everything was prepared, Zhou Yi stepped into the Gale mountain range alone. As soon as his foot touched the ground, A massive mushroom cloud rose in the distance. The shockwave from the explosion alone made it hard for Zhou Yi to keep his balance. Meanwhile, Zhang Charan anxiously stared at her phone screen. Ever since exchanging contact details with Zhou Yi, they had exchanged a few pleasantries but hadn't spoken much more. The only thing she knew was that Zhou Yi was heading into the Gale mountain range alone. After much hesitation, Zhang Charan finally dialed her best friend's number. Her face flushed red as she whispered, "I met a very special guy." Surprised, the green-haired girl on the other end asked, "What kind of guy could make you care this much?" It turned out that when Zhang Charan had challenged Zhou Yi yesterday, she had secretly used her succubus power, but to her shock, Zhou Yi didn't even flinch. He didn't show the slightest hint of confusion or hesitation. This was a type of guy Zhang Charan had never encountered before. After a moment of deep thought, Zhang Charan suddenly slapped her thigh and exclaimed, "I've made up my mind. I'm going to the Gale mountain range too." At the same time, in the Gale mountain range, a military jeep raced through the terrain, with monsters closing in fast. Just as they were about to be surrounded, the mechanic, Zhu Rao, quickly yanked open the door and hurled out hundreds of light landmines. The explosion was deafening. Boo! The shockwave rocked the whole forest, and flames swallowed up the monsters. But despite the massive blast, a few stubborn monsters were still hot on their heels, clinging to the jeep. Just then, the summoner summoned a blast of ice power, shaping it into sharp ice spikes that pierced through the monsters' bodies. As everyone thought the danger had passed, a monster suddenly lunged from the roof of the jeep. The gunner whipped out his Gatling gun, and bullets flew like rain, tearing into the monster. Then, out of nowhere, the swordsman appeared, his sword crashing down in a thunderous strike, taking out a whole swarm of monsters. The team let out a quick breath, but before they could celebrate, a blazing beam of light shot toward them. Bang! The jeep exploded under the massive impact, sending debris flying. The survivors barely dodged in time. Without missing a beat, the mechanic sprang into action, quickly setting up a defensive line. Just then, a teammate's voice rang out urgently, "Watch out! Behind you!" Before they could react, dozens of monsters, jaws wide open, lunged straight for them. The blazing flames gathered above the monsters' heads, and just as the team was about to be consumed, a massive white wolf shattered the firewall and charged through. On its back was none other than Zhou Yi. With a swift motion, Zhou Yi activated his skill, Holy Storm. In an instant, a huge golden cross appeared before them, blocking the flames completely. Then, another golden cross appeared behind the monsters, spinning rapidly and trapping them within, leaving no escape. Zhou Yi's forehead glowed with divine power, which quickly formed into a golden giant sword. With a single strike, it obliterated all the monsters. He then patted the massive wolf beneath him, and a wave of chilling ice power erupted, instantly extinguishing the surrounding flames. Zhou Yi stepped forward, extending his right hand. He activated Slow Heal, and within seconds, the team's wounds were nearly healed. "Is everyone from the Qingluan squad okay?" Zhou Yi asked. Su Qinglian looked at him with gratitude. "Thanks for saving us. But, Zhou, I didn't expect you knew who we were." Zhou Yi smiled. "The Qingluan squad is one of the top 3 teams in the school. Of course I know you." Su Qinglian blushed slightly, feeling a bit embarrassed after the earlier chaos. She paused for a moment before saying, "Zhou, your light attribute skills are incredibly effective against demons, but they're way too dangerous. How about we head back to the supply base together?" After a moment of thought, Zhou Yi decided to head to the base with them. After all, he had already explored the outer edges of the Gale mountain range for nearly a month, but still hadn't found any trace of the extreme cold ice lotus. Plus, the freshman competition was only 3 days away, so he'd have to wait until after the competition to continue the search. Mechanic Zhu Rao clasped her hands in front of her chest, and in an instant, a dazzling magical formation appeared beneath her feet. A massive, 8-legged bionic spider materialized before the group. As they made their way back, Zhou Yi learned that demons shouldn't even be in the outer regions of the Gale mountain range. This was the first time the squad had encountered such a large number of monsters. It was speculated that these demons might have come from deep within the mountains, or that there was a rift in the nearby world, causing them to spill out. Either way, it meant the Gale mountain range had an uncontrollable factor, and they needed to return to the base as quickly as possible to inform the military. Zhou Yi's confusion boiled over. Isn't there a mage tower monitoring the entire area? How could this happen? Su Qinglian explained. The Gale mountain range is home to many beasts. To prevent them from breaking out and attacking cities, the military established a supply base at the entrance, with a military guard and a mage tower to keep an eye on the beasts. But the mage tower has one fatal flaw. It can't detect low-level creatures like demons. Zhou Yi was taken aback. From the battle just now, every demon had at least been silver-ranked, hardly low-level monsters. Su Qinglian seemed to notice his confusion and continued. The Mage Tower is designed to monitor epic level or higher beasts deep in the mountains. Creatures like demons, with weaker interdimensional auras, can't be detected. She paused for a moment, her expression growing serious. But I keep wondering, if there really is an interdimensional rift deep in the mountains, why are only low-level demons coming through? Normally, any demons detected by the base would be eliminated immediately. And a rift capable of allowing 30-level demons should also let 50-level ones through. That would expose the rift's location much too early. After a brief pause, Su Qinglian sighed. I can't make sense of it. Let the military handle these problems. At that moment, a pillar of dark energy shot up from deep within the Gale mountain range. The massive surge of energy was so powerful that even Zhou Yi and the others, several kilometers away, could see it clearly. Zhou Yi froze for a moment. The energy felt strangely familiar. Su Qinglian's voice rang in his ear. That way, it looks like someone is being surrounded by demons. Zhou Yi's eyes narrowed as he replied firmly. You go back to the base and report it. I'll go alone. Su Qinglian was about to stop him, but Zhou Yi had already mounted his white wolf and charged toward the pillar of light. On the surface, Zhou Yi seemed calm, but inside, his heart was racing. He knew that familiar energy, it was from that person, but why was she here?